You have the ability to control your mind. And that is like mind blowing for some people. Like they just don't get that. You don't have to keep the thought that pops into your mind, and you have the ability to choose something different that's going to then make you feel a different way and take action. Yeah. That right there, I kind of refer to as getting in the driver's seat of your life. If you can't rate the relationship you have with yourself a 10 out of 10, then there's work to do, because you will never execute a 10 out of 10 somewhere else in your life if you don't have a 10 out of 10 with you.
Guys, help me with my good friend, Angie Wisdom. Girlfriend, what is going on?
Oh, how are you, Stephen? I'm so excited to be here with you.
Oh, man. You know what? One of the things I love about you most is this high level of standard that you've placed on yourself, your career, your, like everything around your life. Talk to me about this, the importance of a standard, because I feel like a lot of folks are actually sleepwalking more than not through life.
Yeah. Well, thank you, my gosh, for even recognizing that and calling it out. I appreciate that. You know, the way I grew up, there wasn't a whole lot of a standard. You know, my mother was an alcoholic. I had a broken family. We had to get up, take care of ourselves in the morning. So oftentimes it was like Pepsi and ho-hos for breakfast. And you just kind of did whatever you wanted to do. And there really wasn't much of a standard. And as I kind of grew, I looked around and I was like, these other people, these other, successes that I'm seeing, why can't I have that too? And what I learned was that, yeah, you've got to hold yourself to a higher standard. And it's kind of what birthed the non-negotiable you. But I knew that if I wanted to be something different than what I grew up around, then I had to do something different. And it was going to require more and higher standard.
Now, was that more of a slower transformation? Was it something like a unique aha awareness? Because I find that a lot of folks, they don't know they don't really know what step they're supposed to take. They don't know what a step is. I'm not sure what a boundary is. They don't know how to, to literally hold themselves to higher state, because they've been illustrated through life. They haven't gotten to that place of really not having that non-negotiable mentality. So how was your transformation shape? Was it pretty quick? Was it over time?
It's a phase. I think we're constantly leveling up to that new standard, if you would. I knew at a young age, very early, I did not want to be the way that I saw my mother. I didn't want to live paycheck to paycheck. I didn't want to have to work for the rest of your life. And I mean, she worked until the day she died. So it's like I knew all that at an early age. And so that kind of set that first level standard for me that I had to do something different. But I hit a whole nother standard when I was working in the financial industry. And I often talk about the day I was crossing days off the calendar. Like every day it was just like, oh, thank God, I lived another day. I survived another day at work. And that kind of was an aha moment to me of like, okay, here's a new standard. I don't want to just run on the hamster wheel and check the days off the calendar. I want something more. So to answer your question, it's always another level that we're kind of seeking and standards that we're hitting.
Yeah, no, it's interesting you say that, because I one of the things I love about non-negotiable you is this and one of the chapters is all about authenticity. Mm-hmm. And I find a lot of folks, including myself, start off living inauthentically. Mm-hmm. Not really being aware of that there is a choice or another path or, different steps you could take along the way. How did you discover the importance of authenticity? And more importantly, how did you discover what the authentic self is?
Well, we're shaped that way, right? We're almost shaped into an authenticity because we seek approval. And so how do we get things from people? And especially for me, I started out in a sales profession early on in the financial world as a financial advisor. It was like, who do I have to be to get you to talk to me? Who do I have to be to get you to invest with me? Yeah. And so I became what I thought was genius as a chameleon. And it was just like, I'll transform into whatever you need me to be. You've been there, right? Yeah. And it was very successful. I'm not going to lie. Like it can provide a lot of success if you do that. But eventually I ran into a wall and I was like, I don't want to show up as somebody different every single day. Like I'm so tired of having, who am I meeting with, Jane? Okay, got to be this person for Bob. And I just was exhausted and it started to make me not want to work anymore. Yeah. I was like, I got to do something different. And it wasn't the job. It was how I was showing up. So there was a huge shift and a moment of trust where I said, I have got to believe that being authentically me is actually going to bring me more business and more
Hmm.
people that I want to work with than showing us up as somebody different all the time.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of work. I'm not going to lie, but it proved to be true. And it's what people do every single day when they choose that path of authenticity. You
Yeah.
actually grow more and you get more people around you and more business.
Isn't that wild? You literally find your
Yeah.
tribe by becoming yourself. I
Yeah.
just I find it so that it's interesting. There was a study done. I should remember maybe a year ago, and it said about 72% of those that responded to the survey. And I think they did like 100,000, so it was a good sampling size. About
Hmm.
72% of them said that they were more concerned with being a people pleaser or making everyone else happy than actually pursuing what was actually in their heart. And I know we're people of faith, so I would say what
Yeah.
God put in your heart, right?
Yeah.
Talk to me a little about the aha moment. Because one of the things I try to do with the show specifically is I try to break things down into the catalyst. For me, it
Hmm.
was that my old man Myrick, my first mentor. What's the difference between a rich man and a poor man? And do you want to think like me or your dad? My audience has heard it 1,000 times, so I'm breezing through it. But in the grand scheme of things, what I realized is that was the moment I understood there were two choices.
Mm.
Like I didn't have to live my life because someone else told me to live my life this way or that way or whatever, that I could choose a different way. So
Hmm.
talk to me about some of maybe the catalyst with some of the clients that you have and the things that you've done yourself in breaking free and becoming more self-aware to then become more authentic.
Yeah, I am a recovered people pleaser. I'm not going to lie. I mean, it's just how I was raised, with the alcoholic mother. I constantly did things to please and to, kind of make this situation peaceful. So
Mhm.
my big aha moment, I was actually in therapy about it and I was talking to a therapist and she said, what makes you happy? And I said, when everyone else is happy. She was
Yeah.
like, no, like you. And I go, no, genuinely, like, I am happy when everyone else is happy. And she was like, well, what happens if nobody else is happy? I'm like, I'll make them happy. And, it was like saying all this. I was like, oh my gosh. Like, and I really was happy when other people were happy, but it dawned on me that like, that's an exhausting job and responsibility if my happiness is hinged to
Yeah.
everyone else's happiness. So that was a huge moment for me. And, you know, knowing that I had a different choice and that
Mhm.
I didn't have to be responsible for everyone else's happiness
Yeah.
was very freeing, but also very scary.
Yeah.
And it really was life changing because what I learned is that when you're always responsible for everyone else's happiness, you rob them of the ability to find their
Mhm.
own joy on their own,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like you're the creator of it. And it's, you can get into codependency and all this other stuff,
Yeah.
but that was such a huge moment for me. And once I realized that, okay, I was going to go on that journey, that's what was like, all right, be you.
Yeah.
Find the things that you love, what really fills you up, what brings you joy. And it was fun. It was almost like an experiment where you get to go out there and go, okay, well, I really love
Let's
this. I
go.
really love this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
it's like just finding yourself. It's odd doing it late in life.
Yeah. Well, I guess the important thing is we get it done. Like we do start the
Yes.
process, which I love. It was dawning on me because I would classify myself, especially the first 20 years of my life, as being a recovery people pleaser myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of relate to I'm happy when everybody else is happy. And
Yeah.
then I realized I don't know that I was really happy. I think it was just a release of anxiousness.
Mm.
I think
Yeah.
when I was not paying more attention to my wants, needs, and this is another thing. I feel like, especially people pleasers, right? Especially those
Mhm.
recovering from it, we feel guilty that we want things. We feel guilty
Mhm.
that we have needs. We feel guilty that we want a different career path, or we want a strong and profound relationship, or we'd like to have a nice thing. We'd like to have a nice house. These types of things. And it's interesting because when I was pulling that apart, I was like, it's not that about me being happy. I just don't like to experience the tension,
Mhm.
So
Gosh. Yeah.
the more I began to pursue my own self-awareness and authenticity, the less I actually cared about everybody else's thoughts and wills and stuff like that. It's not like I'm not relational. I want to be helpful and I want to be supportive, but I have my own dreams and ambitions, and I have my own
Mhm.
principles and values and guiding motivators that I use to kind of steward my own life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious, especially with the non-negotiable you, what are the core values that you feel like everybody listening or watching should maybe adopt or consider adopting, invite them to adopt into their life?
Yeah. And first of all, what a great distinction that you just made there, kind of the lack of anxiousness and the peace and kind of making other people happy. You're spot on there. And it's like one thing has to push out the other, right? So if you always are filled up with what everyone else wants and their needs,
Yeah.
there isn't room for yours. So by default, you don't really seek it. But when you start to make room, that's when you open up that ability to explore.
Mhm.
And the non-negotiable you has so many of those components because it's like, okay, well, if you are going to actually put your needs, first so that you can fill
Yeah.
yourself up and be more to others, you're going to have to know what those are.
Yeah.
So every single day, it's this process that I set out to create relationship goals with myself.
Mhm.
People often go, oh, relationship goals when they see a couple.
Yeah.
How about those with yourself? How can you trust yourself? Which means making commitments to yourself and following through, not always bumping them for everyone else.
Yeah.
It means, not looking to everyone else for their opinion and their insight, but looking inward and making that based upon your own values.
Mhm.
Spending time with yourself, huge. And
Yeah.
that component of self-awareness, if you just simply ask yourself every day, how do I feel and what do I want to do about it?
Yeah.
You're literally, rewiring your brain to be in tune with yourself and
Yeah.
create that self-awareness. And then you've got something to answer to, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's interesting because I also find that the way in which I conduct myself first thing in the morning pretty much controls everything else the rest of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed that when I was operating in inauthenticity or low self awareness, I was completely reactionary. I'd
Mm-hmm.
wake up, I was just kind of going through the motions. Whereas when I wake up consistently now, I mean, my first time in the morning is prayer and meditation, and I view those as different things. So I always say
Mm-hmm.
pray to say, meditate to listen,
Yes.
because it's
Love it.
hard to listen when you're talking. You're right. And so I kind of look at that and then I kind of merge that with, my daily workout routine and kind of being active and making sure that I've got the highest level of serotonin levels that I can possibly muster, naturally, and then from there, it kind of comes out with the intentions. And one of the things that I love about what you did with the book, Non-Negotiable You, is you actually partnered with a journal that helps
Mm-hmm.
people break things down, which I think is super powerful because again, I don't think people don't have a desire to have a better life or business or career or relationship. I feel like they don't know what step to take, and not only do you have the book, which is like a roadmap to success by itself, you now have a journal that you actually kind of walk through. What made you want to partner with the journal to begin with? Because it's such a wonderful piece of equipment there.
Thank you. The interesting thing was the journal came out first
Oh,
because
really?
these are practices, that I did with my clients for so long. Like I have reversed engineered what trips people up for the last over 20 years and basically put this journal together to say, if we create self-awareness, if we set intentions, if we rewire our brain with gratitude and visualization and prayer, like all of these things, we are going to proactively set us up for success
Yeah.
instead of this reactive, like you said, in the morning, you get up just enough time to do what you need to do. You're pinballing all over the place.
Mhm.
So I created that and it was really just intended for my clients.
Mhm.
They loved it. They started gifting it. And then people would say, well, can you talk to me about it? Like, can I get some more information?
Yeah.
So that's really what
Yeah.
birthed the book to go, here's why all of these things are so important.
Yeah.
I'm not having you do affirmations and gratitude just because it's like, it feels good.
Yeah.
There is a science behind it.
Mhm.
We are rewiring your brain. We're activating, your reticular activating system. Like there is science and it shows that if we do these things, we
Yeah.
are going to transform the way we think and the way we show up and the relationship with ourselves. So it was just a beautiful way how it all worked out. It kind of
Yeah.
got me to the place to write that book. But I just too, it's like, people can learn things all day long. You can listen to this podcast,
Yeah.
you can read a book, but if you don't have a way to execute, the
Yeah.
chances of you actually seeing it through are so slim. And
Yeah.
I didn't want people to not have a way to do it. Like the transformation that I've gone through and I'm blessed and I want everyone to be able to have that opportunity. So here's the tool, right?
No, I love it. Again, I think what holds people back is not having a practical action step to take. And the fact that you
Mm-hmm.
take your work so seriously and you're so committed to bringing out excellence in other people, shows in the fact that everything that you do, from the book to the journal to this wonderful live event that's only a couple of weeks away in March. I'm looking forward to myself and Chash, looking forward to hanging out with you. Can't wait to do that.
Yes.
I already told my audience all about it. It's like, you guys got to come. Look, we're going to be there. We're going to have a big old party. But, you know, the cool thing is I know that yourself and Ben, everybody that you're bringing and putting on that stage, they're more than thought leaders. They are actively
Mm-hmm.
committed to making life change possible. Talk
Mm-hmm.
to me a little bit about why an event? Why does an event resonate with you? Because events are hard. They're not easy. Like they take
Oh,
work, a lot of planning, and a lot of things that go into events, you know, just to make sure people have an amazing experience. But you're one of the brave ones. You jumped out there and said, let's go. So talk to me about the event.
brave or crazy, Stephen? I'm questioning that right now.
I love events too. So
yeah, no, I love it. I have believed since I started my business that different platforms affect different people. So some people want to sit in here one-on-one. Some people want to be in a Zoom session. Some people want to read a book. Events to me are so life-changing. And I was literally just writing an email about this to people about the event. I went to my first event back in, I think it was 1998. And it was the thing that got me on my journey of growth, because I didn't have people around me. I didn't know what I was even supposed to do. I just had zero knowledge about how to grow, but I had this little bit of a desire of like, I know I want something different.
yeah,
And to what you said earlier, I had a little bit of guilt too, of like, how dare I? I'm
yeah,
blessed. Leave it alone. But this event came up. My office sent out a flyer and was like, here's this event. You get a discount code. So I went to it. And I think the guy's name was Steve Johnson. And it was like, if you're not selling, you're being outsold. And it was this sales event.
yeah,
And I was like, I'm going to do it. I know nobody. And the event didn't, I'm going to be honest with you, the event didn't change my whole mind, but the step that I took and the people that I met and the courage, it put me on this whole trajectory of growth. And
yeah.
moments like that have stuck with me. And even the last conference I went to,
Mm-hmm.
I met Ben and I met Damon.
Yeah,
Right. And I put myself in the room with them
yeah,
so that I could meet people like that.
yeah,
And now look, right, we're
yeah,
having this event. So I think people just don't understand how impactful it is
yeah.
when you can be in an event, someone's talking to you, they're looking in your eyes and saying something to you that you will never forget. I equate it to like when you listen to a song and it's associated with a
Yeah,
memory,
yeah,
right? It stirs something up. The same thing here.
yeah,
Podcasts and books, they don't have that impact. So you've got to be live and in person. You've got to have community around you. It's just such a game changer. And
yeah,
it's so much fun. I mean, there's a
yeah.
little selfishness in it, right? Like it's so
Yeah.
fun.
It's pretty energizing for sure. You know, it's interesting. One of the things I love about events, especially the ones that you do, is again, it's the intention, right? The intention is to
Mhm.
not, is not just to help, it's to transform.
Yeah.
And not every event has that intent. And being someone who's around of a lot of events and part of a lot of events, helps plans a lot of events. You recognize when thought leaders genuinely care about their audience and what's going to happen. And it reminds me of one of my first events. Actually, I was fresh. I was couch surfing by that time. I was done with the homeless thing, which is great.
Uh-huh.
But I got invited to a friend of mine's event. He was with a network marketing company at the time, and Les Brown was speaking.
Mm.
All right. So here I am, basically fresh, finally having some like stable income. We're talking like $12 an hour, $13 an hour. Like
Uh-huh.
it was good money then, not great money now kind of thing.
Right.
But I remember sitting there and I'm actually in the nosebleed seats, you know, it was an arena. And Les Brown gets up and he says, ladies and gentlemen, it's possible. It's late. And the crazy thing is I actually felt that in my spirit.
Mm.
And it gave me what I call the positive what if. What if he's right? Not what if I can fail or what if he's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I kind of felt like if he was even half right, like something powerful would change. Because I realized something, not only like in even your event, right? You're putting really, really successful people in the room to have direct access to this audience that you've intentionally kept intimate to the best of your ability without getting overdone. And like, if you went to go see these people like one-on-one, Like you're paying $2,000-$3,000 a ticket,
Mm-hmm.
like per person.
Yeah.
You're doing all of these folks, all this thought leadership, all this excellent content, and not even a tenth of that or a third of that. Like I don't know. I just applaud you because I think it's amazing. Events
Thank
changed my
you.
life, which is probably why I love them the way I love them.
Mm-hmm.
They're the one place. I also believe with events, and I'm sorry for rambling, but I'm just really passionate about your event. Um, One of the things I love about events is this element of getting out of your element, right? So not only you have
Mm-hmm.
to physically leave where you're at, which means you get to leave everything that you're currently facing and dealing with and whatever behind. You get to immerse yourself with high quality people, with high quality concepts, with just one idea can change the entire game. One relationship, entire game. And I don't know. Again, I rarely see people who actually care as much as you do about this event. Talk to me about why you created it to begin with. Like what, like, cause I know we're kind of brother and sister on this. Like we don't do things
Yeah.
because for, just for giggles. We do
Right.
things on purpose. So why did you form this event?
Yeah. It gives me goosebumps. It almost makes me a little emotional because I just know how people have the ability to change. I know the desires that sit in their heart that don't ever get, like tended to. And to be able to put on an event where people can feel like they're not alone, people can feel like they are capable of rising up
Mhm.
with speakers who are so intentionally committed to like moving the needle for
Yeah.
people is just such a blessing. I mean, it's genuinely the only reason why I do this is because I know the power of it and I
Mhm.
know the result it will have in people's lives. And I just want to impact people to go out there and have a better life that is going to impact us to have a better world. And I know that sounds a little like, corny or cliche, but it truly is that. And when I put these events on, and then the people that come back and say to me, like, oh my gosh, I met so and so, or this one thing that I heard
And it
changed
happens
everything in
every
my
time you do an
life
event. Yeah.
every time.
Yeah.
It's just like, it almost seems like, how can I not do it? I actually just went and spoke at another event and I had a room of 100 women in there for a small breakout
Hmm.
and they cut me off. I didn't have time. And I said, if you guys want to come out, I'll meet in the hallway. And they all gathered around and they just sat there asking questions. And then I got emails and they're like, this one thing changed it. Like I had this aha moment.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about for me. I mean, if I can do that and then bring in, four powerhouse speakers and great thought leaders like you to impact people, God, I mean, I just feel like that's what I was
It is so fun
made
to
to
transform
do.
lives. It
It
is,
is.
it is
I
funny.
feel guilty sometimes because it's
Well,
like, it feels a little selfish, right? When somebody's like, oh my gosh, I believe in myself, or I doubled my business, or I've found my relationship, spirituality, like
yeah.
whatever it may be. I'm on that same ride with them, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Like
for sure.
I'm right there
Yeah.
with them and I'm living through it. And it's just amazing.
Well, 1,000%. I also think that, again, I think it comes down to intention. The
Yes.
reason you go out and you do what you do, because you don't have to do what you do. You do what you do because you love doing what you do. I think you and I also realize that inside of some of these folks that we're desperately pouring into and we want to see them actually achieve their goals and beyond, it's going to ignite another level of fires across the
Hmm.
board, right? Transformation creates more transformation. It's a byproduct. Call it God's version of Facebook and Instagram, like lots of shares, right? And
Hmm.
some people will go and build big businesses. Some people will go and have, find their soulmate, like, what equates to a soulmate or a healthy relationship, and a lot of that comes down to putting yourself in an environment. Um, and you've done a wonderful job of putting the tools and resources together. Not just the event, but the book, the journal, all of that, to do something else that I know you're super passionate about, which is learning to trust yourself. You
Hmm.
can't trust yourself until you know yourself, and you can't know yourself until you have other circle of influences giving you additional perspectives. Like maybe let's spend some time on the importance of trusting ourselves and maybe how we discovered that process and maybe walk through that journey.
Yeah, trusting yourself is just huge. Like you said, you can't lead yourself if you don't trust yourself. And that's a huge piece of it because if you're not leading yourself, then essentially you're being led by external noise, other people. And so really to reverse that and to stop looking outward for all of the guidance and the decisions. You have to look inward, which is how you build that trust. And every single day you have an opportunity to build trust, right? When you set a commitment or an intention and then you follow through with it, you have just built some trust with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And that happens again and again every single day. When you invest in yourself, when you take a chance on even going to an event like this, right?
Yeah.
Buying a ticket, you've just said, I believe in you and I
Yeah.
trust you.
Yeah.
So it's these little micro decisions that you make every day that starts to build that trust within yourself. And it doesn't mean that you don't ever want a perspective or outside influence, but it means that you have enough self-awareness and trust to filter through them appropriately and not hang on it like it's, to live or die by.
Yeah.
And I can't, I'm an independent person because of the way I grew up. So it was always whatever I knew, and I didn't need other people's help. And that's been a huge shift for me when I started going to those events and being around other people and allowing those people to say what they saw or, lift me up and support me.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big, big difference maker right there.
Yeah.
You can't create your best life and success in a silo. It's just not possible.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to give people too, the opportunity, come out, be around people who can see that. And I know that you've probably seen that time and time again, but you get a group of people together and they start seeing what they see in each other. And it's like, they just light up. You almost see them start, levitating off the floor. They're like believing so much. And that is huge.
Oh, 1,000%. Every time I get the opportunity to be there somewhere live or be somewhere virtually, I always do live or virtual. And it's not because you can't have a cool virtual experience, but you can't have a personal experience.
Right.
You can't physically shake the hand, sit down with a cup of coffee in the breezeway, in the hallway, near the bathroom, during the breaks, and that's one of the reasons why I'm looking forward to kind of hanging out with you guys. Cause I'm gonna be all over the place talking to whoever wants to talk, and kind of like socializing and because of the heart to pour, as we're kind of looking at things and we're thinking about kind of like, should I go to an event or is this event for me specifically?
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me a little about, I want to hear from your perspective, maybe a personal experience or personal story of why you created a certain piece of a concept of the particular event, and then kind of who the event's really, really for.
First of all, I keep telling people, if you're afraid to go, then you should go. If you think it's not for you, then you should go. Like those are all the red flags that, fear is jumping in and your comfort zone is trying to keep you, nice and cozy. You do belong there and you will meet people, but the way I structure my events is different. They're small. I don't do stadium events. I don't want anybody in nosebleed seats just taking stuff in. I actually do round tables so that people sit together and converse. I actually do interviews and Q&A. It's not just a rapid fire speaker event. I want you to connect with the people at your table and understand what your takeaways are, what your action items are. Like this is not just a fill you up.
Mm-hmm.
It's a space where you get to connect and dialogue with people so that you can walk away and have some accountability. I always say, grab an accountability partner while you're here today. Get somebody's contact information. And last year I had all these different accountability groups that, paired off and kept in touch. And they would send me a text and be like, I'm meeting with so-and-so, and we're doing so great. So I form it for that. I want you to have accountability. I want you to have community. So you will not be sitting in a seat by yourself. I also do follow-up coaching, which is unheard of. Like most people do these events so that they can sell something. I don't sell anything. Like last year, I literally did 6 follow-up group coaching sessions for everybody at the event. If you wanted to chime in,
that's because you actually care without the internet.
Yes, I wanted to make sure that they were actually growing.
It is so rare that a thought leader of your caliber that doesn't have to do what they do and just do it because they love to do it goes through that level of execution to make sure people get what they need.
I just ask that you text me and let me celebrate with you when you, when you have that transformation, when you get that sale you didn't think you could get, when you start your business, when your confidence is off the charts, when you feel like you're finally living the life that you deserve and that, you were made for. Like all I ask is that you text me and let me celebrate with you.
Yeah.
That's it.
Oh, that's so good. That is so, so good. Well, look, I want to pivot back to non-negotiable you.
Yeah.
I know it's a work of art. I know it's a work of passion. If you had to pick 3 specific principles that you wanted to expound upon that maybe, because I know when I go through the editing process, not
Yeah.
everything gets to make it into the book, right? So just for some bonus, right? Because look, everybody needs to grab the book. It's an easy but very profound read. Easy but very
Thank you.
profound. You'll need a highlighter. You'll need an ink pen. You'll probably need a journal, i.e., get the journal. It comes with it, kind of accompany with it. But what are 2 or 3 things that maybe you want to expound upon in the book that you weren't able to, or concepts you wanted to put in that do the editing process and maybe just make it in there?
Oh, that's a tough one because there are so many pieces that book 2 is in the works right now.
Okay,
Because I
well,
think that
in that case,
there's
first guys, there's the book, second book coming.
but the mindset piece is huge.
Mhm.
And I just touched on it in the book because I didn't want to overwhelm. And I think that the point I just want to drive home here that people really need to understand is that you have the ability to control your mind.
Yeah.
And that is like mind blowing for some people. Like they just don't get that. You don't have to keep the thought that pops into your mind, and you have the ability to choose something different that's going to then make you feel a different way and take action.
Yeah.
That right there, I kind of refer to as getting in the driver's seat of your life. If
Yeah.
you can get at the control panel of your mindset, everything gets easier and more achievable. Yeah. And that's a concept I'm going to build on in the second part of the book, because where do all those thoughts come from, right? We have to explore our past, which is a whole nother ball game. But I like to say your past does define you, but guess what? You get to define your past.
Yeah.
And there's so much power in how you grew up and what happened. And I denied that for a long time. I was like, the past is the past. We don't need to look at it. It holds so much gold. It holds your true gifts and qualities and your confidence. So that is a big piece to expand on there. The relationship with yourself. If you can't rate the relationship you have with yourself a 10 out of 10, then there's work to do, because you will never execute a 10 out of 10 somewhere else in your life if you don't have a 10 out of 10 with you.
Yeah.
So you can read as many sales books as you want, communication books, marketing, everything. And you will always be showing up with less than your full potential if you haven't done the work on yourself.
Yeah.
And that's, another piece too. That's so important. Everyone wants to shortcut that piece, right? Like just tell me the script, tell me how to build the business, give me the EOS, give me all just like tangible, like, tools that I can do to get the work done. But the real work is within you and your relationship with yourself. It changes everything.
Yeah. And the real work takes consistency. I'm a big believer that, you should explore your past, but you don't have to live there. So I kind of, when I go to look at past situations, and obviously I've had a fairly difficult past myself, like many people have, and I think that's another important distinction is you're not the only one that's faced challenges, right? So get around people who have faced challenges, come out the other side, who can help you get to the end of the journey quicker. That's the only hack that I can think of to speed to expedite the process. But, when I'm looking at my past, things, I'm looking at it from a lens of non-judgment, non-condemnation, and looking for data only. I kind of always viewed it as stepping outside of the movie and operating the movie like a director. So I know what's going to happen before, middle, and after, and then I can take the character and position it. Oh, well, this is what happened. This is what Stephen thought it meant. This is what God meant for it, kind of thing. And I know I love it. So.
Yeah. And, to kind of piggyback on that a little bit is I'm with you on that, not living in the past, but everyone has some type of adversity. And this is why I love Damon coming to the event, because if you look at it and you look at anyone out there, you have your story, right? Ben has his story. Like if you actually know your story and what it created in your life, then you get to use that adversity as opportunity.
Yeah.
And most people don't want to tap into that adversity. They are like, that doesn't define me. I don't want to look at it. But if you don't know what adversity you went through and you're not extracting the goodness from it, it's really hard to find that catapult into the opportunities in your life. So yeah, be factual about it. Everything you said there is just huge. Damon jokes. He's like, well, it's easy for people to listen to me. I was a football player. I was in prison, so sports in prison that people want to hear, but it's the adversity, right?
Yeah.
So I encourage people, find it because there is gold in it, and you will really figure out what God has created you for and what you can use in your life.
Yeah, I love that. I'm going to come back to adversity in just a second, but before I do,
Yeah.
where can everybody else find out more about you and everything you're working on? Because obviously we covered the book, the journal, and the event. I think you should
Yes.
so let's go. But where can everybody
Absolutely. I mean, I put content out there everywhere. Angie Wisdom Life Coach on Instagram. The name is easy, angiewisdom.com.
How cool is that, by the way, to have that last name, Wisdom? I'm just saying. I mean, that guarantees that you're like a sage. I'm just putting that out.
Well, people always think it's not my real name. Like I was doing a podcast the other day and she goes, what made you choose Wisdom? And I'm like, I don't know. He was 6 foot tall. He was tan. He liked to surf. And she was like, oh, it's your husband? And I'm like, yeah, I didn't make up the name. It is the name. But so if you Google Angie Wisdom, you'll find me all over. But the event, I just, if you can do it, come to the event. That is the biggest ROI that you can get on your investment, I believe. It's such 100%. A good place to start. Like if you're not sure, you're just kind of interested, you want to be nosy, and you're just tapping into it. Gosh, it's the best place. So on my website, angiewisdom.com, you can look at the event details or get touchable too.
Yeah. And we'll put all this stuff in the show notes as well. Cause obviously I'm a huge supporter of what your work and everything you're doing. I know Chastity is, man. She loves you to death. I think
I love her.
I think you guys are officially sisters now, which I love. So
I think so. Yes.
Yeah. But the last thing I want to maybe touch on before we hop off is I'm gonna go back to adversity for a second. Because I find that people who are struggling or who I would say are stuck, and I would say the definition of stuck is nothing more than not making progress, which could mean you're not taking a step. It could mean a variety of different things. Versus someone who's what I refer to as unstoppable, which is consistently making progress. The core difference I see is actually how they handle adversity. From your perspective, with all the folks you've worked with and all the amazing work you've done, all the work you've done within your own life, how has your relationship changed with adversity over time?
Adversity is just an obstacle that creates opportunity. That's just the way I see it. I think that the big dividing road for people is if adversity is something that happened to you and you become a victim of it, then you're going down one road. If you look at it in this light of it happened for you, then you believe that it is for a reason and there's an opportunity within it. And it's literally those two choices. There's no other definition in there. Either happened to you or it happened for you.
Yeah.
And I think a long time ago, I probably, whined and cried a lot about what would happen to me with the way that I grew up or the obstacles that came in my way. But you realize that that's what gets you stuck. Like nothing happens then because you can't change stuff that you don't have control over. You can't change what's already happened. So I kind of took this approach of like, well, why not? Right? Like, why not view it as something different? And in my experience, it's one of the first things I work on with clients is getting them to reframe things. Cognitive reframing is huge. It's why in the morning mindset journal, we do gratitude, we do prayer, we do visualization affirmations. Because when you start to go, oh, that kind of stings a little bit.
Yeah.
What's in here for me?
Yeah.
That's when you really start, kicking adversity's butt and you start creating major opportunity out of it.
And what I think is interesting about adversity specifically, or how you if you can learn to deal with adversity in a healthy way, it reminds me of a bit of a backward snowball or a snow. So it's the snowball going down the hill. The quicker you can get to a place where you accept and even lean into adversity, the quicker you're going to build momentum. And the thing that used to cause you pain and problems before becomes, I would dare say, inconsequential. Like there are things that used to freak me out and overwhelm the mess out of me that literally if the same event happened, I'm not faced at all. Meanwhile, I deal with a different challenge that I get to compound and I get to learn from. And you get the experience and you develop the empathy and I'm a big believer that, part of you going through certain experiences is to get the lessons learned to help people, those who are literally behind you, who are coming up, if I could help somebody, if I could help Stephen 15 years ago expedite his healing journey or expedite his growth journey by 5 years, like that is incredible, and to put all this content and this framework around actually helping people achieve that, I just can't applaud you enough, because you're a living example of what it takes to win, what it takes to sacrifice, and what it takes to give more than anything else. And I can't thank you enough. Angie, you're an amazing human being. I can't wait to hang out with you at the event. Again, everybody should grab the book, get the journal, be at the freaking event. Let's have some fun.
Yes.
I'll hug your neck. Angie will hug your neck. Chastity will even hug your neck. Just get your butt to the event.
I love it. And I'm sitting over here, my heart's so full with all that you said. Everyone likes to be recognized for what's truly deep in their heart. And I appreciate you seeing that in me and sharing that with people. I am a hugger. So, yes,
go.
come to the event. I will be there giving hugs out. I read something the other day, somebody posted about the amount of just in a hug, the serotonin that gets released. And
6-second hug. A 6-second hug will double your dopamine.
Yeah. And I saw that and I was like, I'm going to start hugging people a little longer, squeeze it a little tighter,
I start asking for hugs. Like, can I get some more hugs over here?
It brought hugs a whole new meaning to me. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going out as a fierce hugger now, man.
I love it. Angie, thank you so much. I can't wait to hug you in person, and see you soon.
I'll see you soon. Thanks, Stephen.
All right, take care. I hope you liked that video. And if you did, make sure you check out this next video right here.
If you could spend 99% of your time in your superpower, what is that? What would that be? What do you want to be known for and as? Where it's never work,